everyone, and welcome to Representation in Cinema. We talk about the representation of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people in movies. This podcast is hosted by Our Voices Project. Our goal is to dismantle destructive stereotypes of minority groups perpetuated in the media by producing films centered on the multifaceted experiences of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people. Our Voices Project is also a committed community partner, providing opportunities to affirm racial and cultural identities, empowering students as agents of social change, and contributing to an individual's learning through cultivation of critical thinking. I'm Jackie McGriff, co-founder, director, and producer for the Our Voices Project, and joining me on today's podcast is OVP team member, cinematographer, and editor Deborah Alvarez. Welcome, Deb.
Hey, everyone.
All right, so I am happy to say that we've made it to the second season of our podcast. Ooh. Yes. Deb, how does it feel?
Oh, great.
No, we are very excited to actually be able to do this, throughout all year last year, and now just to get here and then be able to kind of like broaden our discussions around representation in cinema. To our listeners, thank you so much for listening each month. We are grateful to you and for you. Today, on this first episode of our second season, we are pleased to talk to Jason Barber about positive and accurate Latino representation in movies and the influence of Edward James Olmos. Welcome to our first episode of the year, Jason. We're so glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Jason Barber is a Cuban American educator and artist with over a decade of experience in Rochester's arts and non-for-profit sectors. As an active public artist in Rochester, he has served in many roles for a variety of Rochester's art institutions: Rochester Brainery, Oxford Gallery, Memorial Art Gallery, Wall Therapy, and the Yards Art Collective. He currently sits on the development and outreach boards for Roc Art United, Latinx Art Council, and Catholic Charities of Rochester, and teaches art at the Academy of Health and Science. Mr. Barber's presentation will explore the impacts that Latino and Latinx artists are having in Rochester through their murals and public artworks. He is also a massive film lover with an encyclopedia's worth of knowledge in cinema.
Sorry for my bad grammar.
No, you're all good. You're all good. Okay, so now we're talking about the influence of Edward James Olmos. So for those of you in the audience who don't know about this legend, Edward James, and quotations Eddie Olmos, is a Mexican-American actor, director, and activist. Born in L.A., where he was raised, the son of Eleanor and Pedro Olmos, who was a welder. His father was a Mexican immigrant and his mother Mexican-American. He grew up wanting to be a professional baseball player and became the Golden State batting champion. In his teen years, he turned to rock and roll and became the lead singer for a band he named Pacific Ocean, so called because it was to be the biggest thing on the West Coast. I love that so much.
Bigger than the Beach Boys.
Yes. For several years, Pacific Ocean played various clubs in and around LA and released a record in 1968. At the same time, he attended classes at East Los Angeles College, including courses in acting. Today, his acting career has spanned over 30 years. In that time, he's garnered a Tony nomination for his role in the play Zoot Suit, where he portrays the narrator El Pachuco. He also starred in the 1981 film adaptation in the same role. He received an Oscar nod for his performance in 1988's Stand and Deliver, and is well known for his memorable roles in Blade Runner, American Me, Familia, Selena, and Time of the Butterflies. He has won an Emmy and 2 Golden Globes for his celebrated television roles, including Miami Vice, The West Wing, cult favorite Battlestar Galactica, and Dexter. As I mentioned before, he is also a devoted social activist, co-founding the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival, Latino Literacy Now, and Latino Public Broadcasting. We are covering a few of his films today, so we encourage you to go watch these films, some of which we've mentioned and others that you may not be as familiar with, but are also very important. As we say on each podcast episode, you will hear spoilers, so before we continue any further, just know that you have been warned. All right, so now that you have all that you need to know, Jason, so why specifically these films, and why Edward James Olmos? Why did you want to talk about him?
I think for me, seeing him early on in cinema, seeing Mi Familia, seeing like a representation of someone who looked like my grandfather, looked like my uncles, looked like a Latino that you would know, mattered. And I think the more I discovered the stuff he was involved in, what he produced, the way he was part of, you would see someone who actively was changing the way the Latinos were represented in cinema, and specifically as normal Americans, not as immigrants, migrants, illegals, narcos. You know, he didn't play these characters. He played teachers. He played dads who were American, who happened to raise their daughter, like in Selena, who discovered her Hispanic heritage. You know, and it was this sense of like, for a second gen like me, you know, my mother's from Cuba and I was born here in Rochester. I am like, I always say I'm like 100% Cuban and 100% Rochesterian. My dad's an Italian American, but he's through and through Rochesterian. So it is that kind of balance of identity that early on, seeing those films, especially at a young age, like seeing Selena when I was 13 and seeing that experience of seeing someone who looked and sounded like me, who spoke English, who was really bad at speaking Spanish. And seeing those examples was like, and seeing that he had an involvement in that, and then going to see Battlestar, seeing like eventually discovering Ballad of Gregorio Cortez and Zoot Suit and like El Norte and stuff that he was just somehow connected to. And he was bringing these groups together in the 80s and the late 70s that I didn't know was happening. And it was the first time that I could see real representation or real stories being told of the Latino population, and not just, yes, it was specifically focused on Mexican Americans, but he has later highlighted Puerto Ricans, Cubans, you know, like telling our stories because they're as important as just, you know, like, and like as any American story, you know. And I think that's what's so important. Like, he wasn't playing, if he does a Western, he's not playing the bad Mexican,
right?
You know,
that's what I appreciated. Yes, awesome. Thank you so much. All right, and we will get to Gregorio Cortez later on. Yes, because I have so much to say about it. But first, we were actually going to start with Mi Familia, and just getting into, again, exploring this question of, you know, these specific movies and their portrayals of. First, of course, like Mexican Americans, and then the other, you know, Latinx people. So Deb actually watched this one. Yes. Do you want to give our audience what Mi Familia is all about?
Absolutely. So with Mi Familia, a second-generation Mexican immigrant narrates his family's history, beginning with the journey of his father, Jose Jacob Vargas, across Mexico to Los Angeles, where he meets Maria Jennifer Lopez and starts a family. Each subsequent generation contends with political and social hardships, ranging from illegal deportations in the 1940s to racial tensions and gang fights in the 60s and 70s. Yet through it all, or perhaps because of it, the family remains strong. Yeah, this film had a lot of twists and turns in it for sure.
Very melodramatic.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Especially, I guess with Tony, that was pretty funny. The path that she was going down, starting with a nun and then off to, you know, marry a priest. So there was a lot of different aspects of the film that I thought were heartwarming as well. And so I guess I wrote a few questions for the movie, and the first one, so generally, how do you see Latinx families taking care of each other? And has that dynamic changed in today's generation?
I think it's an interesting point. I think Latin communities, especially in predominant Latin neighborhoods and places, it's a culture that has to help and support each other and develop each other. We're in everyone's business, and also nothing is sacred, which really, really can be very annoying amongst predominantly white people. I grew up in a white evangelical community, so imagine how that feels to grow up in a church-based community and be Hispanic. Yes. You are constantly butting against people who don't want to tell their opinion. Yes. And I think that is something that's unique about that movie. You see that it's a multi-generational thing, that like even if they're distant from each other, they're still in each other's lives. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it. And the movie also deals with the traditional stuff that's in a lot of Mexican American cinema, magical realism, which we're still dealing with. It's in Coco, it's in Encanto, is all this idea of that, like, in Latin culture, there's this magical effect. The family has this magic that doesn't exist outside of the family. Mm.
Yeah, no, that is interesting point to say, especially because I noticed with Maria, the first generation, she dealt with, she had a lot of spiritualism. I think she had a lot of faith, and there was moments, especially with her son Chucho. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah, Chucho.
Yeah, Chucho. So he had Maria, she started basically. I will start from the beginning because I lost my train of thought. So let's see. The next one, it was Chucho's mother. She believed the river spirits took him instead of the police murdering him. When Chucho was a baby, like, there was a scene where Maria and him, they were in trying to cross this river, and she sees a white owl, and it was like an omen to her. She wasn't sure yet what it meant, but then throughout the life, as you see Chucho grow up, you see it come to pass where he sees the owl again, and that means that the time is near for his death. And Maria thought that the river spirits took him, even though there was murder, and it was very hard, especially for Jimmy, who witnessed that. So do you see other Latinx people from your experience, have you seen other Latinx people view unjust actions in correlation to spiritualism or religion?
Yes. I mean, I had a grandmother who was devout, and my mother who's strong in her faith, and started a church, even a Latino church here in Rochester. So spiritualism plays a huge part in exile populations, especially people who are in like a form of a diaspora from the Latin American country. Right. It's the way we understand the world. It's the way we understand our culture, because in many ways we are like the Israelites in Babylon, like we are the unwelcome guest, but we're told to assimilate to your cultures, your traditions, or we cannot be part of your culture and your traditions. And we're still an outsider to that. So most people who are of an exile population and come from a strong spiritual background, especially Catholic, or even, like Southern Baptist or like Protestant, you're going to feel this connection. You're going to feel this outsiderness, and spirituality, connection to this unworld and outside world is also part of Latin culture, not just in Mexico, Puerto Rico, and Cuba. Santeriaism is very commonplace. So, I mean, even my own family, you go to the priest and then you go to the Santeria. So the witch, you kind of balance both sides of the ladder in the culture. So there is always a sense of, there is this real spirituality. I know my own family, when they've had very horrific losses, there is a sense of omen. There is a sense of this stuff leading. So that always connected me to it. And even you remembering those scenes, I'm like, oh, has a different effect on me now as I've gotten older. So.
Yeah, no, I remember watching it because I grew up with white wolves. I'm mixed, so Hispanic, Puerto Rican, and white, European, but yeah, and Italian. So we got some of that
we got
too.
The same.
Yeah. So and my grandmother actually believed in Santa Maria and practiced that. And I grew up living with her, and so I kind of would see how she practiced that in a ways, and it's just very interesting, the dynamic in religion and how that connects to your culture. So I appreciate you sharing that for sure. Now, I'll transition into actually. So Memo, the younger son, he actually I think he was the only one that I think the parents thought turned out pretty well, because he was like an attorney or something. And so he ended up marrying, or was engaged to this lady who was, just like the traditional white American. And the scene where he's introducing, their family to his family, his dad talks about So Memo's dad talks about his great grandfather being buried in the backyard, and Memo's like, "Really, Dad?" He was like a little embarrassed, you could tell. And I remember his father reading that, and just thinking, "I guess I shouldn't really, announce that to the family."
Yeah.
So it was kind of, it was funny because it you see, like, in the beginning how that happened with the grandfather, and just how the family really values and helps each other out. And so just seeing that scene, it was making me think, like, I guess in later generations, especially now, in regards to assimilation into the culture, in American culture, like, do you see many Latinx of the younger generation have pride for their culture? Do you see a lot more like assimilation?
I think that's a very interesting question because I think it's a balance. I think it's hard. I remember talking to our principal about this, and I said in Rochester it's a little difficult because there is a choice. It's a binary choice if you're in inner city schools. And I've talked to my Latino kids in the school, and I've talked to my principal who I have a principal who's Dominican, who's dark skinned Dominican, and I've also had principals who are black, and I've had to explain to my African American principal that, like, Latino students who are black or white, they don't see themselves as either or. And I think the problem is the culture says you have to make the choice to be either or. And, you ask like a student who's like, no, I'm Dominican, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Cuban, I'm like this, I'm this. Yeah. And they see their identities more complex while the culture is telling you you can't, you have to see it as this point of view. And it's this kind of weird balance, as my principal says, she's an outsider because she's Dominican, she's a dark-skinned Dominican, so she's not going to be part of either culture, but either culture is going to try to see they can take advantage of that identity. And I think that's something that's interesting when it comes to assimilation, because it doesn't matter, that determines the assimilation that you go into. And I also think in many ways assimilation is something we have to wrestle with as second gen. Like, because especially if you come from a population that you have to work to become a citizen to this country or work to be an active part of this country. It's different for Puerto Ricans, but they still struggle for the same because they can go back. It's like Cubans, I can't. It's a complex relationship. And Mexicans, it's still a really complex relationship.
Absolutely.
There's a recent movie came out, Bardo by Alejandro Iratu.
Yeah.
And he kind of really does a really good job at explaining that kind of dynamic of being an outsider in your home country and then being an outsider in your adopted country. And I think that is the question of the younger generations, is like, what does assimilation look like for us? Is it forced upon us because of the culture that our parents wanted us to be part of so that they can receive that education and grow? Or what do we take and what do we grow with it? My father is Italian American, Rochetarian through and through, but I've always think my father understood something without ever understanding something, that you must integrate instead of assimilate. So he took parts of the culture that he liked. He loves making pulled pork. He learned the technique perfectly. Can't speak a single word of Spanish. Completely looks like an idiot when he's around there, but he loves my mom's family. He loves my abuela. He loves my abuelo. He loves, but he had to learn how to make Cuban style pork. That's the thing he had to learn, but he integrated into the culture. He became part of that culture, in that sense. But that's the part he could understand and the part that he could relate to. And he did, that's the element he worked in. I actually gave my father praise. I'm like, Dad, you didn't force us to assimilate. You didn't tell my mom she had to assimilate. My mom did it because of, just being in this environment. And I think that's the aspect of generational that you see in this movie. Because that's that question. That second generation has offered that question. What does assimilation look like for you? Like, Memo deals with it differently than his siblings do. Because he wants to be American. He wants to marry the white girl. He wants to be part of that culture.
Yeah. And
have that security.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, it's interesting because at least with my family too, it was my dad, his dad came from Puerto Rico and basically left to go to the war for a time, and he basically wanted his whole family assimilated and speak only English. So he never spoke Spanish to my dad, and so my dad did the same. We just all spoke English, and so I can see how that definitely affects the way we view our cultures when we don't know the language very well. So, how's your experience been with Spanish now? Have you decided to learn it? Or
Bad. I gotta work on it. I keep procrastinating on it. It's something it's hard when you live here. Man. It's so hard when you live in Rochester. People realize how it's. If I was in Miami, it'd be a whole different story. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We can move forward because we have. I know there's a bunch of movies to talk about.
Really good questions.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
So
for sure.
Shall we move forward to El Norte then?
Yeah.
Sure.
So El Norte is about a group of Mayan Indians who, after deciding to organize a labor union to improve conditions in their village, experienced their community being violently destroyed by the Guatemalan army. Teenage siblings Rosa and Enrique managed to escape the massacre and decide to start a new life in El Norte, the USA. The two trek through Mexico, meeting a variety of characters and facing trials and tribulations on their journey toward lives as illegal immigrants in Los Angeles. So, amidst the struggle of the two siblings throughout the film, there's still humor throughout, and their stories I thought were told very poetically.
Very depressing.
Yes, in a depressive way. For sure.
It's a good movie, but it's a depressing movie.
Yes. I had to take some time to play with my dog after watching.
It's a movie that started the kind of the cliche of it, which is sad because it's a beautiful movie, but it did create the kind of traditional, this is the illegal immigrant story.
Yeah.
Oh,
across the migrant story.
I can see that.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, is there, I guess, so some of the questions listed here, the first is what kind of struggles have you faced personally, and have you seen similar struggles within the Latinx community in America?
Well, yes. I mean, as a Cuban American, you are grown up with people who've done every which way to come to this country. You know, I've had my first person who ever taught me Latin politics and Latin history, true Latin history, was somebody who took a raft. And just recently, I have two cousins, one who I wish to be on this podcast because he is a film professor from the University of Santiago.
Oh my gosh.
But he took, as he says politely, he took the expensive way to cross the Mexican border, spending $22,000 to sleep in the back of a semi-truck for 4 days to get to the Mexican borders. So, yeah. So, and that,
wow.
And that's, he had the education, but that's $22,000 is what somebody who has a high-end, like a upper middle-class job in Cuba makes. That's a professor's, pay for a year. So to spend that much money just to do that is important. And to come here, he's somebody I've been hopefully going to try a Latin Film Festival with, and I've been trying to kind of be on board with the initiative just to kind of get him to volunteer because that definitely helps. But we've had people who've done that. So. Oh
my gosh. Okay, I have to interject because this Latin Film Festival. Do you want to tell us a little bit more?
Yeah. Hopefully, let's hope it all works. We just met with the Little to kind of secure some ideas for it, to kind of develop some some groundwork of what films. One of the films we are discussing now, probably the next movie, I've been really annoying them like crazy to get, and I've gotten some kind of push, not just kind of maybe this, I don't know if it'd be that popular. And I think you've both acknowledged if we showed this movie, I think it'll be sold out. The next movie we're talking about. Yes. Yeah, I think, but sure. I think we just need to keep pushing the Noe and the Little, trust me, we show this movie, everybody's going to want to come.
Yes.
But I think it's just trying to carry what that looks like because, this is, if we're doing Latino cinema, you can't just do it as one group.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You want to have multiple stories.
Yes.
So you want to represent Dominicans, Latinos. And, for me, one of the big pushes that I hope kind of falls through is how can we tell Latin American stories here in Rochester? Stories of people who are Latinos in this country. What does that look like to be Latino in America? It doesn't have to go through one political, one social, cultural group. But what does it look like to have that identity? And I think that's something I hope we can kind of deal with. And I want, Cuban cinema. I want directors from Cuba to show their films. I want directors from DR to show and Puerto Rico to kind of present the films. And I think it's great to bring our whole community together and say, you know, we're 35% of the city. We're one of the largest and growing populations in the city. And yet all the cultural institutions have kind of failed on representation.
Not kind of.
You know what?
You can say, you can fully say it, Jason.
So
Say
they
real
have
this.
failed. You know, and I, as much as I love these cultural institutions, I'm sick and tired of them asking us to come dance and give us your food. You know, like I'm not being mean, but it's like it's our time to tell our stories.
Thinking of some events,
Our American stories, like our Latin, like, and I think that's the element of saying you guys need to step up and tell the stories and show the films. Like the little Dryden, they have it easier. They do. I mean, it is a pain in the butt to get films there. It's true, but that's in its reality. I've understood that. It's a real hard reality. You know, you've shown films.
Yes.
So it's definitely not easy process, even for them. But I do think they have the easiest footwork. They have such a library that they can kind of reach out to, and then everyone else should fall into place. You know, the George Eastman House, and the MAG. They should kind of be like, okay, what are we missing here?
Right.
You know. The Strong Museum could do like a Dora the Explorer exhibit. I mean,
love Dora the Explorer.
That
was my show.
Come on, just step that up.
Yeah.
So
No. Thank you for sharing. I cannot wait, and I hope they show that the movie that we're going to talk about soon.
Yes.
But so on El Norte, Deb, did you have any other question that you want to ask about that specific movie? The very depressing one.
It was very sad, but I tried to look at the good moments in there. I mean, I think it was really sweet that both siblings were very loyal to each other as far as helping each other and staying there. I mean, do you think, because I know the main character made a friend while he was working at that restaurant, and he kind of helped him escape the, was it like the word? Sorry, I'm trying to find the word
like
for
deportation.
Yeah. I mean, was there any? Do you see like a lot of common traits between the characters of just like the main? So when they like the Latinx people in America versus like in Guatemala, like how they met, and I'm going to rephrase that question. What do you think the characters had in common with the Latinx people that they met in America?
I think there is a strong difference. Like, it's interesting when we think about Latino populations in the country and outside of the country. Like, it's saying that, like, oh, wait a minute, if I go to Italy, man, I'm expecting all the Italians in Italy to act like the Italian Americans in New York City.
It's different.
So I think that cultural dynamic plays into some of the stuff, but I do think I like the part that you said. It makes two subtleties. There's still humor throughout the story. Yeah, and I think that's something that I like to see in Latin American stories, and I mean any marginalized story we talk about. But I do think in Latino populations, there's sometimes a gallows humor. You know, we have a little dark sense of humor. I mean, especially if your families come here in really, really hard ways, you joke. You know, you really joke about it. I mean, growing up, we called it Fidel, Uncle Fidel. I mean, that's what you do as your Cubans. We make fun of so that's why, you know, I get along with that's why my cousins have married into Jewish family. Like, it's part of our culture. We just blend really well.
Oh my God.
So I think that aspect of it is just, the humor has to be there, because we have to make fun of hardships or we don't understand the struggle. We have to walk through the struggle. En la lucha. Walk through you are part of the struggle. That is part of our life and our culture. So I think that aspect, I love that it's in El Norte, and it's so cool because the director of this, as we go into the next movie, is the director who would also become a producing partner with Edward James Olmos, so we connect back to Eddie.
Okay.
You know, and into the movie that we also just talked, Mi Familia. So these three movies are very interconnected because Gregorio Nava is the director of these three movies. You know, he is the director of Mi Familia. He's the director of El Norte. This is his first movie. So it's just crazy to think this is Gregorio Nava's first movie. And then it connects into the next movie we're talking about. I know I was kind of jumping the gun.
No,
like,
it's fine because now at this point, I think our listeners are like, okay, what is the movie you're talking about? Right. Okay, so sorry, I don't mean to yell, but there it is. So this next movie, Selena. All right, take it away, Jason. No,
sorry.
So Selena is based on the true story of
Selena Quintanilla.
Thank you. Who's because I was like, I'm going to butcher that. Terrible. Okay. He was born into a musical Mexican American family in Texas. Her father, Abraham, so Edward James Olmos, there you go, realizes that his young daughter is talented and begins performing with her at small venues. She finds success and falls for her guitarist, excuse me, Chris Perez, played by John Cena, who draws the ire of her father. Seeking mainstream stardom, Selena begins recording an English language album, which tragically she would never complete. All right. So now with the first question, with Selena being a Texas Mexican born Tejano.
Yeah.
Yep. Tejano singer. So Jennifer Lopez, who played Selena in the film, was born in the Bronx.
She's Puerto Rican.
And she's Puerto Rican. Yeah. So do you think the differences in the Mexican and Puerto Rican culture somehow compromises the authenticity of Lopez playing Selena in the film?
No. I think she's like Selena. She's a second gen. You know, her family's coming here. She's an American who grew up around Latino culture. So they're very much in common, a lot more. I think, you know, they're both kids who like disco music and dance, you know. So I think what's so unique about like Selena is having this enduring impact that we're really all experiencing now. I mean, I see kids in the inner city wear her T-shirts.
Wow. I
see white girls in churches wear her T-shirts. And they all know who she is. They've all heard her music, and she's been dead for almost 30 years now. It's been almost 25 years, close to 30 years since she was killed. And I think with J-Lo, I mean, she made J-Lo. Like, we wouldn't have J-Lo. I mean, Gregory Nava had just had her and we forgot to say, in Mi Familia, that was uncredited. She wasn't even credited as the mom.
What?
In that movie. So that she was just nobody in that movie. And then he says, I like this actress. And then Edward James Olmos, they wanted her for this movie. And she tried out, and she could sing, she could dance, and, you know, like, it's fate. Like, that movie changed her life. It changed everybody's life that was in it. It's still, for Latin cinema, it's one of the, like, most longest lasting in the last 30 years about Latin representation. And it's a story about an American family that happens to be Hispanic.
Yes.
That actually finds their culture. That Selena finds her identity in her culture.
Yeah.
And so do her siblings. So it's so interesting to see that. Like, and I remember still watching. I was 14 when I saw that movie. And I remember seeing it for a babysitter she was Dominican, and she took me to see, we think we saw like 3 movies. It was Selena, Shine, and Power Rangers. The last one we just snuck in because we were like, it's like in the third theater. But like, she didn't want to babysit, and we were all like teenagers. So she's like, well, just sneak into movies and buy food.
There you go.
So, but we all purposely went to see Selena. Like, Selena was the actual movie that we went to go see. Like, we saw that movie, and it was just a movie that I remember just sitting there going, this sounds like my cousins. This sounds like me. And I think that's why I think it didn't matter if she was Puerto Rican. It doesn't matter if she was not Tejano. Like, you know, like it was, you know, she was Tejano kid is still an American kid who's still struggling with the same issues, the idea of fame, the idea of getting her passion through.
Yeah. So, so we were talking before the podcast about having seen this film. I've seen this film multiple times. I had a cousin who, maybe I'll get her to listen to the podcast, kids. I'm going to talk about her for a second. So, hey, Carla. But she was obsessed. Like, she's obsessed with this film. And so when she would babysit us. She was living with us at a time. She'd be at home with us. She's like, okay, let's watch Selena. I'm like, again. And so we would watch. And one of the lines that's burned into my brain forever is, you got to be more Mexican than Mexicans. You got to be more American than Americans, both at the same time. It's exhausting. So like that one, that specific, I swear, that specific line, I think even to me, as someone who's like outside of the Latinx community, like as a Black American, I'm like, oh yeah, no, like a Black kid living in white suburbs, like feeling like you gotta be Black to the Black kids that go to the school. You gotta be, this version of a Black person to the white kids, because you are their only exposure to Black people, other than the ones that they see on TV, right? So like that line always hit me, but I wanted to know like your thoughts on that, Jason. That line specifically.
God, because that's something I've struggled with,
Yeah.
I mean, I am a Cuban American with the whitest name ever. Jason Thomas Barber. Blame my father. On that one. And my mother. She's part of that game too. She says, if you were a girl, we would have named you Latino names. And I'm like, what? So you just named all those white names? It's like, we like them. Like, I don't know. But that is something I've grown up with. Like we were mentioning before the podcast, growing up in a predominantly white evangelical world, going from a Latino church, which was predominantly run by women, because they had to, because that's just, you just had to, and because everyone's poor, everyone had to help each other. And going to a white church that's middle class or upper middle class, they're talking about helping people but don't know how to help people, and they're selfish, and it was very cliquish. And to be the Latino representation, and also be with my two cousins who were, Daniel Afonso Cordova and David Cordova, like both Latinos, and how much we all had to, in one way or another, like water down our Latino-ness, but also embrace it. I mean, when you have to teach a bunch of white girls how to salsa, and it is your 6'1" older cousin, like your cousin who's like taller, not older, he's the same, he's younger than me, who's being the lead, and I have to follow because I have to teach the girls how to follow because they don't know how to follow a guy because they've never actually danced with someone. Like they've actually, and then you teach the guys how to lead because they don't even know how to lead. They've never done this before. So you have to the awkwardness of just being like Hispanic and then teaching kids. Even just recently, I had to go to taco night, and I brought Puerto Rican. I went to a Latino, brought a bunch of food to them that is traditional Latino food, and it was like watching minds explode. Like at a taco night, a bunch of people who don't understand Latin food, and it's just this is even now, and I'm 40. So you are one. You have to be one to another. But then if I go to a Latin culture, if I go to Miami, I'm terrified to go to Miami because I know I'm not going to be Cuban enough. I'm just going to be this white, And I remember experiencing that in college, being with New York Ricans and New York Dominicans, and like, well, you're not Latino enough. You're from Rochester. How would you know? You're probably from Hickville. And then they would come up here and go, oh, I'm so sorry. This place is more violent than the Bronx. And I was just like, yeah, see, I told you. Like, so I am, and then my Latin cred went like up. Like, oh, you are more Latin than us.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's just because you grew up in a community that was more dense. That's the reality, and I think like it's that like you were like it's she says, I have to be like more than Mexican for the Mexicans, and I have to be more than American for the Americans, because nobody's ever happy with us just being the complex people we are. And I think that's the thing about like, you see it in representation all the time.
Yeah. Just
recently, 2 years ago, Netflix canceled All in the Family, which was the most perfect Latin representation television show I've ever seen, but they kept Narcos.
Of course.
Even though Michael Pena, who's in this movie, is also in Narcos, and he's great in it. But, like, just can't complain about Michael Pena. He's great as actor,
Yeah.
Underrated.
Love him.
But,
oh, my God.
But think about that. That's just even recently. They got rid of all their Latin shows, but they kept the show that has the most horrific cultural explanation of us.
Yeah.
That's that. I mean, still, like, it's crazy.
I mean,
and also, network TV didn't want to pick up On the Family. Like, no other streaming did. And it's just like, wait, this is such a unique show. But thankfully that writer is making a lot of other shows, and, but it's just, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's disappointing, but you're also like, I'm not shocked. Like, having been someone who's been, watching movies and shows, like, all her life and everything, and just noticing the pattern of like what they choose to like the stories they choose to tell, and the stories they kind of just like that's not really making us money, or not really necessarily caring about the representation of it. It's more like, okay, let's take this stereotype, right, of a people, and let's just keep doing that because like that's what continues to make us money. Not not talking about, that's a whole other podcast. Not talking about how the damage that's doing.
I mean, but look what just, and I have to give so much credit to Ryan Coogler because Black Panther, which I'm excited because I haven't watched it, but I've been reading a lot about it. I'm going to watch it tomorrow when it comes out on Disney Plus. But the idea of having Latino, but actually Aboriginal, indigenous Latino, and have our culture be the main culture, and having it to be this, creating a world, this imaginary world that is our culture, like that is amazing. Yeah. And also, I think like people forget that I was just pointing out that HBO's highest grossing movie, like streamed movie. This is earlier last year, the same time that The Matrix Reloaded came out and Dune came out on HBO Max, was the remake of Father of the Bride, which was about a Cuban and Mexican American family. Yeah, it was the highest rated streaming for HBO Max. I did
not know that.
Yeah, and people worldwide. So it just shows you that like Latin population is also salsa music. Selena's music is goes. I'm gonna say something controversial. Probably goes farther than Beyonce's music culturally.
I mean, that's fine.
You'll probably find it in China. You'll probably find it in North Korea.
Wow.
I bet you anything you'll see Latin music anywhere because it is culturally Europe. Latin music is still Africa, all over Africa. I just was listening. A friend of mine just gave me a record of African artists covering Latino bungalo, which is Puerto Rican music from the Bronx, and like in the 60s. Like they were getting influenced in Africa by Latin music. This is the 60s and 70s. So it just shows you our culture is so integrated with all the cultures. I think there was a study recently that said the perfect genetic genome that has every single genetic culture in the world is Puerto Rican. You're going to love that. Yeah, that has the right percentage of Black, Asian, and European. So
I discovered bomba actually this past year.
Yeah, bomba's amazing.
I took some classes. I'm like, this is insane. Bomba, how early, far back that type of music went. Yeah, and it's amazing.
And it's so cool because when you look at like what Selena has done, like what that culture has done, the impact of this movie is still having on people.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't go to Hot Topic without seeing a Selena t-shirt. She's at Hot Topic. She's at Forever 21. She's still everywhere. Her face is still everywhere. They just had a miniseries in Netflix that did great.
Yeah.
On her. Like, it just shows you that like it's this little movie should be shown. And I mean, if it's shown here, I want it big. I want people. I want posters. I want to make this big. I keep annoying them, but I'm like, we have to do Selena right.
Well, so I'm saying, do I need to call out the Little Theater right now just to be like, hey,
y'all,
hi.
If anybody's listening to Little,
hey friends, you need to show Selena, okay?
But like, also like, make it as big as you show Beetlejuice and other movies. Yes. Like, this is as important. The press needs to be as big on this movie as anything else.
For real. Oh my gosh. So let's see. Going a little bit. We may have like talked Selena, but it's fine because like again, it's such a important and impactful film, just like on a lot of different levels. To that, like, want you to talk about a little bit about what you were talking about before our podcast, the little fact of like how big Selena really was.
So I just found out today, actually, someone, one of the Spanish teachers at my school, he's from California and LA, and he told me that the only time the Houston Astrodome has ever been sold out, and it didn't even get sold out for Michael Jackson, and this is 1980s Michael Jackson, so at the peak of Michael Jackson is. Right. Selena sold out the Astrodome for a week. This is before she was murdered. Wow. And I've listened to that concert. You can listen on Spotify. It's nonstop. She does there's no transitions. They just go one into one out song.
Well, and how long was the concert?
It's an hour, 2 hours,
Oh
long, almost 2 hours long. And she's doing disco songs. They're going into the beady beady bump. They're doing all her hits. And if you watch this, because you can watch it on YouTube, they recorded it and everything. And she doesn't stop. It's straight moving. She doesn't take a break. She is dancing the whole time. If she had lived, I think J-Lo has lived her career for her. I think J-Lo is what would have happened if Selena had happened. Had stayed.
Right.
So, she would have been as big as a Madonna or such a big figure. Whitney Houston. She was on that way culturally there.
Wow.
And I think that's why her story still is relevant, because it was such a short movie. Yeah. But I think this. It's good that Edward James Olmos, again, we bring it back to what we're talking about.
Yeah,
he produced this movie.
Yeah,
he's the one who found the director. He's the reason this movie got off the ground.
Yeah,
because he's the one who had to convince her family to do this.
Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine.
So it wasn't because of J-Lo. They didn't know who J-Lo was. They knew who the director was, but they knew who Edward James Olmos was. So Edward James Olmos had to be the person to kind of go, okay, I want to do your daughter's life justice. I want to honor your daughter's life. We want to make it right. And we want also to have a real Latin voice. Yeah. Not some, soap opera director, who does these heartwarming biopics to come do a cliche thing, hire a white actress to play a Latin actress, which happened a lot. Even even now, it still happens.
Yeah.
Or a Latin actor play someone else, they had to be, everybody had to be right. Everybody had to fit that part right. And everyone was, if you watch, you see this and you see Me Familia, you're like, oh wait, that actor is about, she's the one who plays the mom is in Me Familia, and Edward James Olmos and Michael Pena makes a small role. It's they're all he just had a little stock company. He just said, okay, you're gonna make this movie.
It's their own Me Familia, I guess.
Yeah.
Actors and actresses, yeah.
Oh yeah, for real. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next movie. This is Zoot Suit. I don't know what I was expecting with this one. But oh my gosh, I'm ready to talk about it.
It's like a play. You're watching a play.
And I'm going to talk about that because I thought that was so interesting. Okay, so it's based on the true story of a Mexican American gangster, Henry Reyna, whose real name is Henry Levas. And others in his group are wrongly accused of murder. They are then rounded up by the police, put through a racist trial, and then thrown in jail while fighting for an appeal from the inside. As Henry considers his fate, he has a conversation with El Pachuco, again, Edward James Olmos, a figure from his own conscience who makes him contemplate a choice between his heritage and his home country. So, like I said before, I really love the style of the film, the way in which it's told is, so it's as if in the beginning, it's you see an audience, right? You see people walking into this place and everything, and so you're saying, oh, okay, there are a bunch of people sitting in an auditorium and they're getting ready to watch this play. Well, the movie is the play, so it's almost like you are the audience, except it's because it's
you're
moving
watching from the play to the real world to the movie to the stock motion, stop photo. It just plays with every aspect of what you're thinking a movie was supposed to be, and it's definitely a movie from the 70s,
right? Yeah, for real.
The early 80s.
I was like, this is clearly from the 80s.
Yeah, early 80s. That kind of okay,
right? Where it's very and of course where plays are very dramatic. This is also very. At least I thought it was very dramatic and everything. And it also might just have to do because it's again the 80s. I don't know. But I just kept thinking about how it's done. I think the only other movie that I've kind of seen done like that, except there isn't an audience in that one, is Anna Karenina. So if you've seen the film adaptation, they also do it where it's kind of it's a play. But what Zoot Suit does is it plays with the audience. So at times you are the audience, at times you're kind of like a fly on the wall, and then you're also shown the audience's reactions to certain things happening. So I want to know from you, Jason, if this film, because it's also based on a play, so if this film hadn't been stylized in that manner, do you think it would have taken away from any of like the themes?
I don't know. I think this is a movie that I think people need to rewatch culturally, because it definitely has like, it's definitely a different kind of stylization. But I don't know. I think. Can you repeat your question? I'm kind of
you're
reworded a little bit.
You're gonna know. So okay, so if you were to take, so what happens, because it is based on a true story. Yeah. So if you were to take it and if you were just make it a dramatization, right? Instead of like making it set in like you're watching these people act out this on a stage. Do you think that would necessarily take away from the story itself? Would it be the same thing, or was it just? Do you think it's just like I think it would take an artistic choice?
Take away from the El Puchuco character. Okay. I think you want to have this almost like Spengali magician character, like devil. You don't know what he is.
Yes,
he's kind of this character that floats into this netherworld of. Is he demonic influence on the character? Is he also his ancestors telling him? Yes. This is what he is, but also the cultural identity of the Zoot Suit, which was a very traditional kind of, it was a Mexican American reinterpretation of that 40s became such a popular image. But, it was what Black and Latinos would wear in LA to kind of specifically say, we're different.
Yes.
This is our identity. And I think his character would not have the impact if they didn't do it that way. Because you want his character that he's speaking to the audience, but he's also speaking to the main character. Yeah. He's also speaking to the racist judge and the sheriff. He's playing everybody. He's this like trickster that's in Latin traditions and like and even like older cultural traditions. Yeah. That kind of goes into our culture. And I think that's something that's really cool to see, that Edward James Olmos is playing this traditional trickster, which, he's the, like, he's, if I don't know if everybody's ever seen American Gods or the book, there's a traditional African, like, trickster god.
Yeah.
And that also has transitioned into Latin, like, characters and Latin personas and stories of a trickster. And that goes into Mexico, that goes into Puerto Rico, even throughout Latin America, there's these cultural characters. And I think that's so cool, because I think that gives more power and weight to it. And also, he can narrate and tell you how horrible this is and how it still exists in Latin culture. Yes. How like these people are still looked like this. We've all known in the last 5 or 6 years how often like the news still calls us, like all these names. People just last few months, the border.
Yes.
And it's not Mexicans. That's Cubans. That's Haitians and Venezuelans.
Yeah.
Those are the good Latinos, like culturally in the past. But now we're crossing the border because there's like people don't understand that's what's happening. And it's more complex. And these are professors, teachers, nurses, doctors that our country is collapsing. And yet, hey, no, they're the same. They're still the dirty. They're sleeping in the tents. There's still these people that are taking our jobs. They're going to take our stuff, our women, our stuff. Like, and that's what's so interesting about Zoot Suit, because this is 1982. This is like the year I was born. It's 40 years now. Yeah. These two movies are like, well, no, I think it's 80, so it's like 2 years ago. But like still, it's still saying this. I mean, this was a big musical when it came out in the 70s. Like he won a Tony for this. Yeah. Edward James Olmos. So like, it had a huge impact. And at the same time, he's not the only Latino on the stage. Right. We have Raul Julia. Like we know him from as Gomez Addams, but like, man, Raul Julia was one of the most biggest Broadway actors, and he was 100% unapologetic Puerto Rican.
Nice.
And I mean, if you ever want to watch anything, go on YouTube, type up His Taming the Shrew with Meryl Streep, and you want to see two actors at the top of their game do Shakespeare. Watch that version, and you're just gonna go, "Wow, that's insane." You're typing that up right now.
Yeah, shit. Yeah, Deb is like, if you tell her to watch something, she's like, "All right, let me write this down."
Taming the Shrew with him, like Raul Julia and Meryl Streep is amazing, and you see that like that is them right there. That's them in the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s. You have these two Latinos, and that's what I think is so fascinating when we talk about these movies is. A lot of these came out early 80s. There was something happening in the culture that I think LA and film industry, and the money was going towards Latino directors or Latino representation. And I think it happened culturally everywhere, because I think they were kind of banking on like the black exploitation model that was already kind of dwindling out at the time. And I think they were thinking, well, if we have this huge population of people, that want to watch movies, maybe we should make movies about them. And I think Hollywood was starting to kind of hit that. And then all of a sudden, sadly, Miami Vice hits, which Edward James almost wins. He's in. But it does also have every Latino actor ever under the sun, like from play a gangster. Like John Leguizamo, Benicio del Toro. Like you name any Latin actor from the last, I think Danny Trejo, like they've all were on Miami Vice.
Wow.
I don't think Danny Trejo is. I'm probably going to get corrected on that. But he's in American Me, which is an Edward James Olmos directed movie, which 10 people have died from that movie. Connection to that movie. Yeah, because it was real. They got real gangsters. He directed real gangsters and got real stories. And like 10 people have literally who have been connected to that movie were killed by Mexican gang members and mafia members because they got it so close to the culture. They like nailed like even the initiations. Like,
oh my
that. And like Edward James almost got extorted for like 5 years by one guy. He was trying to extort him for money. Like he was going to try to kill him.
Yo.
Because of this movie. Danny Trejo even said it. Like 10 guys, he said 10 guys he knows got killed.
Oh my god.
Because of American Me. That was Danny Trejo's first movie. Like El Mariachi.
Oh man.
So yeah. Like that just shows you like how important like you have this. Like this man was somehow in the connection of all this, and this is kind of leads to Selena as we kind of lead it. Selena is like the big boom, the big bang of all this, like, but it's also kind of the last hurrah, because if you think about after Selena, other than movies like we talked about, Real Women Have Curves, representation has kind of dwindled in the early 2000s for Latin movies. Up until recently, you haven't seen that. Like it's been right, but that it was like mid 90s was the last big bang, and then that was it.
Man, this is like this what we say always on this podcast. Like Hollywood, seriously, do better. Like there's no excuse. There's no excuse.
I do think we are doing better. I think you have now, like Edward James Olmos was one of the few people, but now you have people like John Leguizamo. You have J-Lo. You have people. You have a lot of Latin actors that are making production companies. You have a lot of writers that are building the stories and telling the stories in such unique ways. And I think that's just because, they said, the industry has gotten to the point like, oh, wait a minute, these do make money. Like In the Heights does make money. Hamilton made money.
Yeah.
And that was Latino and Black voices.
And we are seeing, we're seeing more of it. I just, for me, I can't speak for everyone else. But for me, it's like a slow crawl. Like I'm like, okay, great. Like you're coming out with more stuff, but I'm like, instead of like getting the same actors like to play things, I'm not going to go into my Timothée Chalamet rant.
He hasn't played Latino yet. Let's wait.
Oh my God! Right? Like they're going to.
All of a sudden, he's like a Cuban character, and then I'm going to flip out.
Oh God! Like no, there are other actors out there. Anyway, I will not go into it. That's a whole other podcast. But yeah, like again, I'm happy, and I'm excited to see, more of the representation out there and everything. Like you were just saying, like Wakanda Forever. I can't tell you how many videos I'm watching of people like Mayans talking about how they're recognizing stuff from their ancestry in the film. I'm just like, okay, great. Let's keep going. With that.
When I watched In the Heights, I literally was sitting with two white friends, and they're sitting there, why are you crying at the first scene? And I'm just like, because they have El Presidente and Café con Leche and the cafe and the bodega. And she's sitting there like, why is that so? You don't get it, man. You just don't get it. That tiny detail. And then to talk about the Latin gods when they go Rita, Celia, and you're just sitting there going, just feel all of our culture just giving it to us. Like In the Heights, I was like, oh man. I love that more than Hamilton. I know that's going to be controversial. So.
Honestly, I think, it's very close for me too. In the Heights, I watched with my family in the theaters, and we were all just in awe of just the music too that was throughout the film.
And it was nice to see our food.
Yeah.
It was nice to see just the way our food's cooked, the drinks, the beer, like just the sodas.
All that matters. Yeah.
Seriously. Okay, because we're having great conversation, and I want to make sure we get to the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez. Okay, so I'm a big Western person.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yes, I am. They both, like Courtney, and who is not here with us. Hi, Courtney. Right now, she's still living. I don't mean to say that it's not. Anyway, I'm saying a lot. No, because I said she's not here with us, so like physically right here in this room. But they, both her and Deb will hear just how much about like Westerns, especially The Harder They Fall, which was our first episode ever.
Have you seen Buck and the Preacher?
Which one?
Buck and the Preacher?
No.
Oh, I gotta let you borrow this.
Okay.
Sidney Poitier directed a movie with him and Harry Belafonte and Ruby Dee.
Please.
All in a movie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it's the first black Western during the Black Exploitation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk, man. Because I was raised on like Clint Eastwood. Like that's all my dad. I know that's all my dad like watched. Hang 'em High and The Good, the Bad.
Great line stereotypes in Clint Eastwood movies.
Yeah. So the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez is based on the true story of Gregorio Cortez, who was played by Edward James Olmos, who was falsely accused of stealing a horse by Texas Rangers, after which a scuffle breaks out in which Gregorio kills a sheriff and his own brother is shot. Now forced to go on the run, Gregorio has to leave his family and set out alone. Meanwhile, a reporter starts to piece together the story and realizes the incident stemmed from a tragic misunderstanding. Eventually, Gregorio is caught and put on trial for murder. Okay, so real quick, no, not real quick. But what I wanted to say, like, I pay attention a lot to, because I love history. I'm a student of history and everything like that. And so looking critically at history is something we do here at Our Voices Project. So I found it interesting that the intro to the film, so it says after, and I'm looking specifically at the wording here, after the turn of the century, more than 50 years after Texas had, through war, won its independence from Mexico, two cultures, the Anglo and the Mexican, lived side by side in a state of tension and fear. From a true story of that era come different accounts of the same event. Now, going back to when it says Texas won its independence from Mexico, wasn't Texas stolen from Mexico?
Well, more like a bunch of illegal aliens crossed the Mexican border, said this is their homeland, and then got stuck in a mission and said, "Hey, you're stealing our land from us," and then started shooting at the Mexican army. Yeah, bunch of drunk Texans.
Yeah.
But sorry if anybody's Texan.
No, don't be sorry. I said safe space, man. Safe space.
But that's what it is. This is like they were illegal aliens and they crossed the Mexican border and they said this land is ours. It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm watching that and I'm going, maybe I'm just misunderstanding my history, but I learned about the Mexican American War also.
This movie is really fascinating because it also shows a little bit of what they call Juan Crow laws. People don't understand that there wasn't just Jim Crow. Texas had Juan Crow.
Yeah.
So same idea, same practices, but it also applied to Mexicans in Texas. If you were Mexican, black, or you couldn't vote. I think you had bars that say blacks, Mexicans, and dogs not allowed. But then I think they were more favorable to the dogs. Into bars and places. That segregation existed for Mexico's even up until this time. And I think this was so fascinating about this movie is actually Smithsonian said this is the most historically accurate Western to this date. They actually shoot it in the actual locations, most of it. The courthouse is shot in the real location where the actual trial took place. The jail cell where he's in is the actual jail cell. Most of the locations that they shot were in the areas where he was fleeing. So, and actually I thought what's so unique about this movie is it's showing like the white interpretation and the Latino interpretation.
Yes.
It's showing it through like the reporter. The reporter is kind of chronicling the absurdity of all this. Like how is like the largest Manhattan Texas Rangers history happening here for one guy.
One.
And because it's all due to mistranslation because of a white sheriff.
Yes.
And that's why you're pointing out, like, why do you think there's, like, no, like, subtitles?
Yeah.
The director, Robert Young, and Edward James Olmos didn't want subtitles because they wanted only Latinos to know that it was a mistranslation.
Oh,
until the very end when we all realized we were American, going, oh,
yes,
that was because he thought the wrong word, like that he translated is like, yeah, that's why, you know, like this happened. So like anybody who spoke Spanish watching that movie when it came out were like, oh, they know, everyone else doesn't know what I know.
Yeah.
And I think
brilliant.
So it's a very, very like it's interesting like film to understand that like that aspect. Like I remember even like when I watched it, I actually like I wanted to retranslate every word, so I would pause everything and I would try to get everything in Spanish, like the Spanish subtitles. Because if you do it on the Criterion version, like you'll see that everything in the Spanish subtitles.
Okay, I did not.
So they even change the subtitles, they'll change it to Spanish.
Okay.
So like I would record and go like, okay. Okay. Oh, I wanted to like know everything.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Oh my god. No, I loved that because I was watching and I'm like, okay, there's no subtitles, and then I thought about it and I'm like, no, actually that's good. That's really good because then yeah, we are like what you said, the Americans looking on and we're like, well, I don't understand like what is the issue, and then at the same and then like again like through this person who has the interpreter and she's talking about, well, there's, you know, the female versions and there's the male versions like of the same word. And so like he answered in the way that he knew because like that's his language.
Horses.
Right. Exactly. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I saw so many parallels. Like I had to pause a few times and then like walk around because I was like, I'm seeing so many parallels to today. So like I just wanted to list a few. There's so many.
I love it.
So this one
is so good hearing you guys' interpretation.
So this is what I do, Jason. So Cho, who is the person, the guy who misinterpreted you know, what Gregorio was saying. So along with most of the posse, they assume that Cortez is part of a gang. It's just him. They like we said before, not fully understanding one's culture and language. Also, throughout the film, they're saying people are saying I don't speak Mexican, but I'm like, okay, but you're on technically Mexican or what used to be Mexican territory. So yeah, first of all, and it's also not Mexican, Spanish, but whatever. So you should see me getting agitated. Like this is how I was during the film. I'm like yelling. I'm like, my neighbors are probably like, what is going on? With her separating Mexican families. Mm-hmm. We saw that.
82. It's 40 years ago this movie came out.
So I'm like, man, like that's why I don't trust the whole, well, they were a product of their time. No, actually there were people back then who knew that this was not right. So no, it's not just a product of their time. No. Firing on people without an announcement made. Like, you know, by law enforcement, jumping to conclusions about a person based on racism. The prosecutor here in the courtroom is playing on the jury's fears and sympathies and racism. The mob wanting him hanged, believing him to be a criminal instead of him going through due process. They were like, no, we want justice. And it's like, no, he's been tried, and like you can't just take him and do what you want with him. Cortez followed Texas law at the time, and they still were not willing to let him go, even though he did follow Texas law at that point in time. So I don't know if I'm right on, if there were any others that I like missing there, but I just saw so many parallels to today, and it's like it's still happening. And I don't know what are your thoughts, Jason?
I think what was so unique about this was in that time they understood that. I think the director, Robert Young, was a documentarian. He also had previously made a movie with Edward James Olmos called El Periodista, which is about migrant workers, like just like the ones worked in the farms, and like the issues there. And Edward James Olmos has a small role, was like a pothead, like annoying, like the guys, but he still was part of the production of this. And I think I think for me, seeing those stories, they were just saying this happens every day in our culture. This happens and this is our long history of struggles of being this identity. And I think that's something that is very hard to kind of explain to people about Latino culture and Latin. I mean, especially if you're Mexican, this is a way more complicated, especially with Tejano or Chicano, you know, like, or if you're in New Mexico, Arizona, or even Nevada, like, there's a weird cultural balance between that. I mean, we're New York, so Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Cubans have a different kind of story. But we still see it. We're still lumped into the same group. We're still linked in the same culture, and we have similar aspects to our culture. You know, like, I know people who came on the Mariel boat lifts, who were put in camps. You know, that's just part of the story of our identity. And I think it just doesn't change, because I think it's hard for American culture to identify in them their own like misgivings of like their neighbors, because they, you know, this is a very people who like to preach that they love their neighbor, but this is evident that historically you haven't really loved your neighbor unless they're Canadian.
Yeah.
But even Canadians don't really love Americans.
No, and I mean, listen, I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Single bit.
But I mean, but with Mexico, it's this weird relationship that is as complex as any relationship can be. And I think this is this evidence of that. And I think what you see in this Western is, as we were mentioned, like Buck and the Preacher, and I know it sounds like a swearing, but like Black Westerns, even you're seeing and like this Latino Western, because this is the first real Latino Western, because it is a Latin lead, Latin American Mexican lead in a story about a Mexican folk hero and like Western hero, like an actual kind of Western style criminal. And he's doing it accurate. He's not making up some fictional story like every Bailey the Kid, Jesse James story we've ever seen. Right. You know, like that is white people who are like doing the whole Liberty Valance thing, you know, like print the legend. You know, like, but not tell the truth. And I think he's like, no, I want to tell the truth. And the truth is more crazy than the actual, you know, than they could actually make this story. And I think what's so unique about this movie is it wasn't a big hit. It was kind of like neglected, but it is a movie that literally, if you rewatch it today, you're sitting there going, this Western is so timely. Yeah. It's so real, you know, and it's, other than it's really bad synthesizer music, it does have. Oh my God, that's the thing that bothered me the most. It's like such an 80s thing to do over a Western is to put synthesizer. Really gotta see. If you watch the Criterion version of it, they have a Criterion DVD. They interview the whole cast of Etta James Olmos, and they do make reference to the synth music. We apologize. It was just the time, you know. Like, it was commonplace in our movies, you know. Like, but I mean, if you think about it, this movie wouldn't have got made without Blade Runner. He got big because of Blade Runner. That kind of caveat pushed this movie to even happen. Like, so it's just like these connections that he was doing. He's still telling these stories. He's still getting arrested for these stories, you know, trying to get these stories out. And I think that's what I mentioned earlier. Like, Edwin James Olmos does not have a Kennedy Center honor. He doesn't have a Medal of Freedom. You know, like, this guy deserves it. Yeah. I mean, he's had, you know, like, he's created the Latino Film Festival in LA. That still exists. The Latin Broadcasting Network, if you're in LA, you're watching that. That is their PBS. They have two PBS and the Latino PBS. Oh man! So like that just shows you how big this identity. Yes, we don't even have a Latin PBS. I have an annoying PBS. They know it. They do know it. Trust me. I've talked to Mona. Like, they know that they've dropped the ball on Latin representation on their show. Like, and it's true. Like, they need to kind of, like, culturally, as we've talked about, like, this is important. But I'm glad you guys loved these choices. I'm glad you loved Gregorio. It's like seeing a good like a Western. Yes. And knowing it's like accurate. Oh my God. I went because I love the movies that, like, after I've watched them, now I'm going to go look up the real story, and I'm just thinking, oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, like, that movie's pretty close to the real story. Yeah.
Like, it
Pretty
is just
close.
insane. Like, he went and then, like, and I think they explained at the end of the movie, right? Like, he went back and, well, so the conviction was reversed, but then it was brought back to trial 6 more times.
Yep.
It's just like
Because of just one mistranslation.
Yeah.
And an accidental shooting.
Crazy.
Which is, like, we just seen the footage now. Like, people realize that, like, just amongst African Americans, but Latino kids, like this, mistranslations are just, this is still happening in Texas, New Mexico, California, you know, in the southern states all the time. Mistranslations, cops, I don't speak Latin, I don't speak Spanish.
Ugh.
You know, like, it's just part of, you know.
Well, hopefully we see more of the representation. We can get Selena at the Little Theater. Come on, y'all.
Yeah. I also want Desperado. I'm trying to push for Spy Kids as well. Yes. I want movies that you guys everyone knows.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I grew up on those movies.
Spy Kids is so Latin.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jason, for being on the podcast. This was an incredible talk. Learned so much. Hopefully all of you who are listening, you go check out these films. So that's El Norte, it's Mi Familia, it's Selena, if you haven't seen it. It's the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez, and it is also
El Norte.
No, I thought I said El Norte. Okay. Well, no, it's fine. It's fine. But make sure you go see these films. You find them, watch them, have discussions, you know, with people closest to you and everything like that. But they're very important films. Also look up Edward James Olmos. Again, he's had this incredible career and continues to fight for representation. And thank you so much, Jason, for being on the podcast and having this discussion.
Thank you for inviting me. I would
Ab-
love to come on future podcasts if you guys need me.
Absolutely.
You know me. I love, like, understand. I love films.
Yes. Oh, I know. He's always posting about films. All right. So we'd love to have you back. To our listeners, thank you so much for your support of Our Voices Project and our Representation in Cinema podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and at ourvoicesproject.com for more information about what we do. You can sign up for our newsletter there, too, to be the first to get notifications about new podcast episodes, film projects, upcoming panel discussions, and updates about our student coalition. You can listen to this episode and others under Representation in Cinema on any of the platforms listed on our website at ourvoicesproject.com/podcast. This has been Jackie McGriff, your host for this episode of Representation in Cinema of Our Voices Project. Thank you always for listening. This episode of Representation in Cinema was recorded in the Food About Town studio and brought to you by Nominate. Have you wanted to learn more about the wide range of diverse cuisines in your town but don't want to do the work? Nominate hosts events every 2 weeks in Rochester and every 4 weeks in Buffalo, where you can buy a meal that feeds 2 people for $35. The fun part is you don't know what you're getting until you pick it up. Every event has a custom beverage pairing available, and you get to support a small minority-owned restaurant. Go to nominatemeals.com to join the nomination and eat some great food.
Talking about Latin representation, we should talk about Joker. The original Joker is Cuban.
What?
Come on.
Cesar Romero, man.
Cesar Romero.
Cesar Romero. Jose Marti. Actually, our Thomas Jefferson is his grandfather.
He refused to cut off his mustache, so he painted over it.
And
in the original
modern television, Star Trek, Mission Impossible, all of that is created because of Desi Arnaz.
Gosh.
Cubans, we made
in the
TV.
world?
We literally, there's a great podcast on how Desi Arnaz created television. Syndication, reruns, like the live studio audience, the whole sitcom is also Desi Arnaz. Like,
There's so much I have
Jason,
to look
you need to
now
come
into.
back and like school us on the knowledge, because holy crap.
Seriously.
yeah.